Welcome, seekers of the truth, to the Magical Services channel. So this is going to be a most supreme horoscope for the general collective with accents on love and career for the weekend that is between May 15th to May 18th of this year of 2026. With that said, collective, let's get into your horoscope. So a concentrated relational and energetic field across this weekend interval is going on, defined by a tightening Taurus Gemini transition zone in the solar magnetic environment, while Aries continues to inject acceleration pressure and Cancer stabilizes long wave emotional and material consolidation themes. The result is a bifurcated operating climate, one part consolidation and resource stabilization, one part rapid cognition and communicative expansion. At the beginning of the cycle, the dominant tone is still Taurus anchored. This is a stabilizing, embodiment heavy configuration where attention is drawn to material coherence, physical reality checks, and the reinforcement of existing value structures. The Sun and Mercury moving in close synchrony through this terrain creates a feedback loop between perception and decision making. What is noticed is quickly evaluated, and what is evaluated tends to become immediately relevant for practical direction. This is not abstract cognition, it is applied cognition, oriented toward a consolidation of assets, skills, and long term trajectories. In this phase, relational dynamics, particularly in love and partnership contexts, tend to prioritize reliability over novelty. Emotional signaling is slow but persistent. Affection is expressed through consistency, presence, and tangible support rather than verbal amplification. Misalignment shows up less as conflict and more as friction in pacing, one party wanting acceleration while the overall field insists on structural reinforcement first. Career and material direction during this Taurus dominant window is similarly conservative but not stagnant. The environment rewards incremental refinement of systems rather than disruptive change. Decision pathways are strongest when they improve efficiency, durability, or value retention. Attempts to force rapid expansion tend to encounter inertia, not resistance, an important distinction. The system is not opposing movement, it is filtering for sustainability. As the cycle progresses, the moon introduces rapid phase shifts across Aries, Taurus, and Gemini territory, functioning as an emotional accelerator and destabilizer of static patterns. In Aries dominant passages, urgency increases, emotional processing becomes direct, immediate, and action oriented. This produces short bursts of decisiveness in both love and career contexts. In relationships, unfiltered expression can surface. Needs are stated plainly, sometimes abruptly. In professional contexts, this supports initiation behavior, starting conversations, launching proposals, or forcing stalled decisions into motion. However, Aries' influence is not sustained long enough to fully restructure the environment. It acts more like a catalytic impulse than a governing framework. As the cycle shifts back into Taurus and then toward Gemini influence, the system repeatedly restabilizes, then reopens, producing a rhythmic oscillation between consolidation and communication expansion. By the middle segment of the cycle, Gemini influence becomes significantly more pronounced. Mercury's transition into Gemini marks a cognitive phase shift. Attention disperses, but processing speed increases. Information flow becomes multi-directional. Instead of a single track focus, multi-parallel inputs compete for relevance. This is where strategic communication becomes central, especially in career contexts involving negotiation, planning, or coordination. In professional terms, this is a high yield window for networking, ideation exchange, and restructuring informational systems. Decisions made here are less about finality and more about optionality. The strongest outcomes arise from maintaining flexibility while increasing information bandwidth. Overcommitment is structurally disadvantageous during this phase. The environment rewards adaptive positioning over rigid commitment. In relational dynamics, Gemini activation introduces variability and conversational expansion. Love language shifts toward verbal exchange, curiosity, and mental stimulation. Relationships that were stable under Taurus influence may now require renegotiation of terms, expectations, or communication patterns. This is not inherently destabilizing, but it exposes any prior imbalance in dialogue reciprocity. Emotional clarity depends heavily on articulation. Unspoken assumptions degrade rapidly under this influence. Meanwhile, Mars in Aries continues to supply a persistent background current of acceleration pressure. This is one of the most important structural drivers in the entire cycle. It produces initiative bias, the tendency to act first and refine later. In career contexts, this can be highly productive when directed toward execution heavy tasks. However, it also increases the probability of premature action if not balanced by reflective processing. In relationships, Mars in Aries amplifies directness and reduces tolerance for ambiguity. Emotional thresholds are lower and responses are faster. This can generate constructive honesty or unnecessary friction depending on emotional regulation. The key differentiator is timing, whether expression occurs during clarity or during activation spikes. Jupiter in Cancer introduces the stabilizing counterforce to this entire system. While Aries in Gemini drives speed and dispersion, Jupiter in Cancer reinforces emotional anchoring, protection of core resources, and long-term security building. This influence is particularly relevant in both love and career when evaluating what is worth sustaining versus what is merely stimulating. It favors commitments that increase emotional or material safety over time. In practical terms, Jupiter's placement supports expansion through protective structures, institutional alignment, long-term contracts, or emotionally intelligent leadership dynamics. It is not aggressive expansion, it is consolidation-based growth. Opportunities that arise during this window tend to reward trust building and reliability rather than risk-taking. Saturn in Aries introduces structural discipline into the impulsive Aries environment. This creates a corrective pressure system. Actions must eventually justify themselves through endurance. It limits reckless acceleration by imposing consequence awareness over time. In career terms, this manifests as accountability for decisions initiated under Mars influence. In relational networks or contexts, it enforces boundary clarity. What is asserted must be sustained, not merely expressed. Uranus in Gemini further intensifies cognitive volatility. This adds disruption to information systems, unexpected insights, sudden shifts in perspective, and non-linear problem solving. It supports innovation but destabilizes predictability. In professional contexts, this is excellent for breakthrough thinking, but poor for rigid procedural adherence. In relationships, it introduces unpredictability in communication patterns, requiring adaptability and emotional flexibility. Neptune in Aries contributes a subtle distortion layer to initiative energy. It can amplify idealism around action taking, creating moments where motivation is driven by vision rather than practicality. This can be useful for inspiration, but problematic if it detaches action from realistic constraints. Discernment is required to separate meaningful intuition from transient emotional projection. Pluto in Aquarius continues its slow systemic restructuring influence in the background. This is a long cycle pressure that gradually transforms collective systems, particularly those related to networks, technology, and group structures. On a personal level, it manifests as increasing sensitivity to systemic truth, awareness of which structures are evolving and which are decaying. In career contexts, it favors long-term alignment with emerging systems rather than attachment to outdated frameworks. Across the entire interval, the dominant pattern is oscillation between stability and acceleration. Taurus and Cancer forces anchor. Aries and Gemini forces activate and disperse rhythms. The highest strategic advantage comes from sequencing. Stabilize first, act second, communicate third, then restabilize. Attempts to compress all phases into one continuous mode create inefficiency. In love, the progression moves from grounded consistency to conversational expansion and then to reactive intensity. The healthiest outcomes emerge when emotional expression is paced to match the environment rather than forced into a single style. Early stability builds trust. Mid-cycle communication builds understanding. And later cycle, Aries activation tests authenticity. In career terms, this is a high variance but high opportunity window. The correct approach is not uniform execution but adaptive strategy. Consolidate resources early, expand information networks mid-cycle, and execute decisive actions when clarity peaks rather than when urgency spikes. The underlying directive of the entire field is calibration, not speed for its own sake, not stability for its own sake, but precise alignment between timing, action, and context. So that is what I had for you today, collective. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like this video or comment this video or share this video or subscribe to our channel so you get first dibs on future uploads. And of course, all those actions would help me grow this Supreme channel of ours very much. In case you wanted to help me do that, it would be nice. Now, if you want more in-depth or other perspectives on things, you could always check out the all sign long video format reading that I did for the week, and that one should be quite enlightening too. Also, make sure to check out the offer in the description box. It could be quite useful and helpful in case you are looking for a professional career or you have a professional career that you would like to make better. And also, make sure to turn the notification bell on if you are subscribed so you get notifications on future uploads, because I always try to keep fresh stuff on here made with supreme standards for y'all, longs and shorts, divination readings and astrology readings, and all sign readings and sign specific readings, and whatever else you would like to see. So please do let me know about it. I do try to make it happen as it is possible, if when the universe allows. And I try to do my best. I want to, ideally I would create something on here every day, but because of some certain constraints, like being in a place where sometimes there are power outages for days, and other constraints like that, where internet access could be hard and so on and so forth. And these are infrastructure things that I am trying to fix. I am trying to put together a working solar panel system so the electricity cuts will be fixed, and yeah, and be close to Wi-Fi areas so that I could always produce and publish. So yeah, anyhow, I'm done with my rambling. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being here, and until the next time, blessings.